Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a close look at India's financial landscape. Specifically, we're exploring this idea of a financial revolution happening over there. It's all based on this book we've been digging into, India's Financial Revolution. And it paints a pretty fascinating picture,
Yeah, it really captures how dynamic things are over there.
especially with digital payments, right? Like the book makes it sound like India's basically leapfrogging ahead of everyone
In
else.
a lot of ways, yeah.
It even says that they're leaving behind like China and the US when it comes to digital payments.
Yeah.
Is that for real?
It is. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Their unified payments interface,
Yeah.
UPI,
UPI.
it's become this massive force.
But what makes it so different? I mean, we use mobile payments here too.
It's how it's all set up. UPI isn't tied to one company or platform, so it's this open system that connects all these different banks and providers.
So it's like a universal language for payments.
Exactly. And because of that, you see all this competition,
Right.
which drives down costs and fuels innovation. The book actually had this story about a street food vendor who basically went from only accepting cash to like running his entire business through UPI. It's kind of amazing to see how it's touching every level of society.
That's the real impact, right?
Yeah.
Financial inclusion. Millions who are outside the traditional banking system now have access to accounts. They can participate in the economy.
It's empowering people in a way we haven't really seen before.
Okay, but all this digital stuff, it makes you wonder about security, right? I mean, the book also mentioned a rise in scams.
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin, unfortunately.
So what are they doing about it? How do you teach a whole country about digital safety?
It's a huge challenge. You've got government campaigns, financial institutions are trying to educate customers.
I guess it's like a constant cat and mouse game, right?
Yeah.
As technology changes.
Pretty much. But there's also exciting stuff happening. The Reserve Bank of India is experimenting with a digital rupee, a CBDC.
So like a government-backed digital currency.
Yeah, that could make things even more efficient and secure. So cash could actually become a thing of the past in India.
It's not out of the question.
Yeah.
Plus, with blockchain gaining traction, who knows what other innovations are coming down the pipeline?
India really seems to be setting the pace, not just following trends.
Definitely. It's a fascinating story, and we're really just at the beginning. And while digital payments are a huge part of it, we can't forget about the other big shift happening, how people are investing.
Yeah, because that's changing too, right? It's not just about gold and property anymore.
Not at all. Indians are becoming way more sophisticated in how they approach investing.
So let's get into that. What are people doing differently?
Well, one big trend is the move away from those traditional conservative methods.
Like stashing cash under the mattress.
Exactly. Or putting everything into gold. Inflation has really pushed people to look for options with better returns, long-term growth.
And the book kept mentioning these SAPs. Are those really becoming that popular?
Systematic investment plans. Yeah, they are, especially with younger investors.
So what's the appeal? Why are SIPs catching on like this?
I think it's partly because they encourage a different mindset about investing. It's not about chasing quick wins. It's about discipline, a slow and steady approach to building wealth over time.
That makes sense. It seems like it fits with how a lot of people in India already think about investing. But what about real estate? I mean, that's almost like a cultural obsession in India, isn't it?
You're not wrong. Owning property, especially land, it's always been seen as the symbol of security, prosperity.
Right. So is this the moment where people finally start letting go of that?
It's complicated. I mean, there's a strong emotional pull to real estate, no doubt, but we have to look at what's actually happening. Property prices in the cities, they're through the roof.
And I've heard the rental yields aren't that great.
Exactly. So when you compare that to the potential returns you could get from a well-diversified stock portfolio or even just following the Nifty 50, suddenly equities start looking pretty attractive.
That's a good point. Okay, but the book also talked about gold still being a major factor. Are people really moving away from that?
I think gold will always hold a special place in the Indian mindset. It's tied to tradition, to culture, to religion. But even there, people are realizing that there are smarter ways to invest in gold.
Like those sovereign gold bonds, the SGBs?
Exactly. SGBs let you invest digitally, so you don't have to worry about storing physical gold, keeping it safe. Plus, there are tax advantages and you get interest payments.
I guess some people would say they miss the feeling of actually holding gold, though.
Sure, there's a sentimental value to it, especially for older generations. But for someone who's thinking purely about investment, SGBs just make more sense.
Before we move on, I have to ask about crypto. The book talked about it becoming more popular in India. Is that really happening, even with all the uncertainty around regulation?
It's definitely on people's radar, especially younger investors who are more comfortable with the technology, but the lack of clear guidelines makes it a pretty risky proposition right now.
So it's kind of a gamble at this point.
You could say that. It's important to be really careful with crypto and probably only invest a small amount, if any at all, until things are more settled.
Good advice. It's amazing to see how India is embracing all these new investment options, but also figuring out how to navigate the challenges that come with them.
It shows you how much things are changing, how investors are becoming more informed, more open to different approaches.
It feels like there's this wave of financial confidence sweeping across the country.
There is. But the book also makes a really important point. It's not enough to just manage your money well. You also have to manage your skills.
Yeah, that adapt or perish phrase, that really stuck with me.
It's the truth. In this world where technology is changing everything so fast, constantly learning and adapting is the key.
And it sounds like India's IT sector, which has always been so strong, is facing a real test right now.
Absolutely. The rise of automation, artificial intelligence, it's changing the very nature of work.
So people whose jobs involve things like routine coding or data entry, they're the ones who are most at risk.
Unfortunately, yes. Those tasks are becoming more and more automated. And at the same time, the demand for skills in areas like AI development, blockchain, cybersecurity, it's just exploding.
So it's not even just about learning new software. It's about having to completely reinvent your skill set.
That's right. And that's where things get really interesting.
That's right.
And that's where things get really interesting.
So how are people in India keeping up with all this change? I mean, are they going back to school, doing online courses? What's happening?
It's kind of a mix of everything.
I bet the ed tech sector is booming over there.
Oh, absolutely. Online learning is huge in India right now.
It seems like it could be a real game changer, especially when it comes to affordability and accessibility.
Yeah, because it's not just about traditional degrees anymore.
So you have these online platforms, you have micro-learning, all these different ways for people to learn specific skills.
Exactly. And it's becoming more and more tailored to individual needs and career goals.
But are companies actually recognizing these new kinds of credentials? I mean, is a certificate from an online course really going to hold the same weight as a traditional degree?
That's the tricky part. There's still a lot of emphasis on those formal qualifications, especially in more traditional industries.
So it's kind of an uphill battle for people who are trying to break into those fields with just online certifications.
It can be, yeah, but things are starting to shift. As the demand for specialized skills grows, companies are having to become more flexible.
So they're starting to see the value in people who have the right skills, even if they didn't learn them in a traditional setting.
Exactly. And I think that trend is only going to accelerate in the coming years. The book also made a really good point about the importance of soft skills.
Like communication, teamwork, problem solving, that kind of thing.
Yeah, all of that. Technical skills will get you in the door, but it's your soft skills that really determine how far you go.
Especially if you're thinking about working internationally, right?
Definitely. For Indians who want to compete on a global level, strong English communication skills are essential.
I guess that's where having a global mindset comes in.
Exactly. Being able to understand different cultures, different ways of doing business, that's becoming more and more valuable.
And speaking of global opportunities, we have to talk about the rise of freelancing and remote work in India. The book touched on how that's opening up all sorts of possibilities.
It's huge. You have platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, even LinkedIn is becoming a major player in connecting freelancers with clients all over the world.
It sounds like a dream come true for a lot of people. You get to set your own hours, work from anywhere.
And potentially earn a lot more than you would in a traditional job.
I bet it's super competitive, though.
Oh, it is. You really have to stand out.
So what's the secret? How do you make it as a freelancer in India?
Specialization is key. Figure out what you're really good at, and then build a strong online presence that showcases your expertise.
So it's not enough to just be good at something. You have to be able to market yourself, too.
Exactly. You need a great portfolio, you need to be active on social media, build relationships with potential clients.
It sounds like a lot of work.
It is. But the rewards can be huge, especially for people in India who are looking to tap into the global market.
I guess the takeaway here is that whether you're talking about payments, investments, or careers, things are changing rapidly in India.
And it's not just about keeping up, it's about being proactive, embracing the opportunities that this transformation is creating.
That's a great point. So as we wrap up this deep dive into India's financial and professional landscape,
Yeah, what have we learned?
I think the biggest thing is that change is the only constant. The way people make payments, invest their money, build their careers, it's all undergoing this incredible evolution.
It's really inspiring to see a country embracing the future with so much energy and determination.
And I think that's a great message for our listeners, no matter where they are in the world. India's story is a reminder that we all need to be adaptable, willing to learn and grow.
Because in this rapidly changing world, standing still is simply not an option.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
That's right. And that's where things get really interesting.
So, how are people in India keeping up with all this change? I mean, are they going back to school, doing online courses? What's happening?
It's kind of a mix of everything. The ed tech sector in India is absolutely booming right now.
I bet. Online learning has to be a game changer, right? Especially when it comes to making education more affordable and accessible.
Absolutely. And it's not just about traditional degrees anymore. You have these online platforms like Coursera and Udemy, and then India has its own platforms too, like NPTL.
Right, right. And you have microlearning where people can just focus on very specific skills.
Exactly. So it's becoming much more tailored to individual needs and career goals. People can really take control of their own learning and development.
That's so important in this rapidly changing job market. But are companies actually recognizing these new kinds of credentials? I mean, is a certificate from an online course really going to hold the same weight as a traditional degree?
That's a great question. And honestly, that's where the challenge lies. In a lot of industries, especially the more traditional ones, there's still a very strong emphasis on those formal qualifications.
Yeah, I can see that. So it's kind of an uphill battle for people who are trying to break into those fields with just online certifications, even if they have all the right skills.
It can be, yeah. But I think things are starting to shift. As the demand for these specialized tech skills continues to grow, companies are realizing they can't just rely on traditional degrees anymore.
Just be more flexible, right?
Exactly. They have to start recognizing the value of people who have the right skills,
Mhm.
even if they didn't learn them in a traditional academic setting.
And I think that's something we're seeing across the board, not just in India. The book also made a really good point about the importance of what they call soft skills, like communication, teamwork, problem solving, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Those interpersonal skills, they're becoming more and more important. Technical skills might get you in the door, but it's your soft skills that will really determine how far you go in your career.
Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to work effectively with other people.
Absolutely. And that's especially true for Indians who want to compete on a global level. Strong English communication skills are essential, and so is having that global mindset.
Right. Being able to understand different cultures, different ways of doing business, being adaptable.
All of that is so crucial in today's world. And speaking of global opportunities, we have to talk about the rise of freelancing and remote work in India. The book touched on how that's opening up all sorts of possibilities, especially for people in the tech sector.
It's huge, right? You have all these platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, and even LinkedIn is becoming a major player in connecting freelancers with clients all over the world.
It is. And for a lot of people, it's a dream come true. You get to set your own hours, you can work from anywhere with an internet connection, and you have the potential to earn a lot more than you would in a traditional job.
No kidding. I can see why it's so appealing. But I bet it's also incredibly competitive.
Oh, absolutely. You really have to stand out from the crowd if you want to be successful.
So what's the secret? How do you make it as a freelancer in India?
Well, the first thing is specialization. You really need to figure out what you're good at, what makes you unique, and then focus on that.
So it's not enough to just be good at something. You have to be able to market yourself too, right?
Exactly. You need to build a strong online presence, showcase your expertise, and really get your name out there. Having a great portfolio is essential, and so is networking. Be active on social media, engage in relevant online communities, and build relationships with potential clients.
It sounds like a lot of work. But I guess if you're passionate about what you do and you're willing to put in the effort, the rewards can be pretty amazing.
They really can,
Mm-hmm.
especially for people in India who are looking to tap into the global market and earn a higher income.
It's just another example of how much opportunity there is in India right now. So as we wrap up this deep dive into India's financial and professional landscape, I think the one thing that's become crystal clear is that change is the only constant.
It really is. And it's not just about keeping up with that change, it's about embracing it. It's about seeing the opportunities that this transformation is creating, and being proactive in seizing them.
I love that. It's a message of hope and empowerment. And I think it's a great message for our listeners, no matter where they are in the world. India's story is a reminder that we all have the potential to adapt, to learn, to grow, and to thrive in this rapidly changing world.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.